All right. Well, we're live. I don't know if you're going to be able to find us or not. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I will hang out for a few minutes, but you can just go to our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, and it should just be streaming live right there. Sorry to send out an incorrect link. Obviously, we're a little bit new at this still, so we'll work through it. There we go. A couple people are finding us. Wow. Let's see who joins. Can you see who joins? After what? I have to get more beer is what I have to do. You want some headphones, Sarah?
Well, it's on. Erica's making a post.
Yeah. There's at least a couple people on.
Ask everyone to tweet out.
Yeah. You don't have to whisper, I can't hear you.
Ask everyone who found us
Yeah.
to send a message out to their followers.
Yeah, make sure you send a message out to your followers who found us so that they can follow us as well. We try to get a few people on the line. I'm going to get more beer for a second. Sorry for the confusion. It let us schedule the event. It let us get a link. It didn't mention anything about any sort of special software. So we had to change it up a little bit and go kind of on a different link. So we had a bunch of people waiting for us to go live, and we lost them. Hopefully they can find this avenue. Sarah, you should plug in those headphones into your phone. You can hand me those hot dogs, please. Bread's done. We're getting a few people on there. All right. Hi, new followers. Hi, new people finding us. Sorry about the confusion. It's my first day. We'll get better at it. Loaf of bread just came out of the oven. This particular loaf of bread has a home already predetermined. I mean, that person might even be watching. I have no idea what beer I'm drinking, but it's from Blackacre and it's delicious. I'm sure somebody can tell me which beer that is based on the color.
Well, we can see you on the computer, but not on the TV.
I don't know what that means. Oh, it's using like the Fire Stick app? Probably. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a difference with webcam, maybe, versus live stream. Apparently, I'm going to need to download some free software. Take care of that. Easy fixes, though. Easy fixes. All right, just another minute or so, and then we'll kind of get started with some formal introductions and talk some bread, the reason why you guys are hanging out. So I appreciate that. Try to give you the best views that I can. I have to move this guy so you can see the egg. Because we are going to do some stuff on the grill. Of course, we do have the oven as well. So most of you, I imagine, probably have one of these. So all the recipes will work as well. Awesome. I do have my lovely assistant here, Sarah. We're going old school. So back in the personal chefing days, when we were hosting classes and events in people's homes, she would often be my right-hand gal. So if she jumps in and interrupts or anything like that, that's why she's here. So what's up?
Everyone about the chat. Post their questions
Live
on the chat. I'm watching it.
Yeah, so be sure and number one, subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, or tell your friends to subscribe. If you have any questions, you can jump in the live chat. I'm sure at some point in the live chat, if there's not one already there, you're going to see a link for the Venmo account, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And that link's going to be useful to you as well. So, yeah, just another 30 seconds or so, and then we're going to make some bread, or we're going to make some more bread. Has anyone answered the question about the beer yet? So it's from Blackacre, but I don't know what kind it is. Might be tasting a couple of those different ones today. You could just talk normal to me. I can't hear anything you say. Gotcha. Why would they put us on a delay?
Erica knows what the beer is.
Yeah, I was hoping somebody would. What is the beer?
110 coffee stout.
Yeah, it's 110 coffee stout. That's delicious. I'll probably be moving down the taps today. All right. All right. Thank you all for jumping in and finding us and going to a couple different places. And welcome to Chef JJ's. My name is Chef JJ, for those of you I have not met yet. And this is a new day, a new age, and something different. Throughout my professional career, I've been in people's homes. Chef JJ started as a private chefing business in which we would focus on going into people's homes and either prepare meals for them or host classes for them, educate them. So we're going back to our roots, and I'm hosting some free digital classes. We're going to cover lots of different topics, and the hopes are that I can provide some valuable, useful information maybe a little bit of entertainment. And I'm doing this for one reason, really. I need to raise money. I need to support my staff. They work really, really hard every day to support the brand Chef JJ's, and through no fault of their own, they're on the outside looking in. So the only thing I can do right now is work really hard for them and do whatever I can do. And the skill that I have is cooking. The hospitality world, I love cooking for people and serving people. And one of the unique ways that we do it is through education. Chef JJ's has always been an education-based culinary experience. So when you come to our place, we're teaching you how to cook recipes and encouraging you to stay home and cook with your family. Obviously, we cook on the Big Green Egg, but all of the things that I share always can be converted to either other grills or to even your oven or your cooktop. I figured the most important topic to start with was going to be bread, simply because it's simple. A lot of people don't think it's simple, and it's really, really cheap. There are not lots of pictures on the internet everywhere of people buying grocery store carts full of flour and yeast. And at the end of the day, these really simple components can serve a lot of great purposes. So we are going to talk about a couple different kind of bread recipes, talk about the important parts of it, make a little bit, and of course answer any questions you guys might have. All in the hopes that you learn a little something. Maybe you're distracted from what's going on right now, and maybe it has a little bit of value to you, and you can help us support the team. So, very first component, let's talk about the individual components of bread, which are yeast. There's not really a great picture of yeast, but yeast is yeast. The important thing to know about yeast is that it is a living product. So while you find this in your baking aisle at your grocery store, sometimes you can find it in jars, sometimes they're in pre-measured packages. It's all a living product, and it is sensitive to heat and does have a shelf life. So if you're thinking to yourself right now, man, Chef JJ, I'm inspired. I want to make some bread. I know I got some yeast about 12 years ago that I never bothered using. You might want to check the expiration date on that yeast because it just might be dead. If you're not sure about your yeast, you're like, maybe not. A really easy way to test it is just to take a little bit of yeast and put it in a little bit of warm water and dissolve it, and just let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes and see if it blossoms or flowers. And what I mean by that is, when you mix that flour and water, of course this is a horrible picture, but when you mix that flour or that yeast in that water and it starts to blossom and flower, you get a little bit of foam that's created on the top of that. A little bit of, and then if you smell it a little bit, you'll actually smell a little bit of that yeast activation. And that means your yeast is alive and well, and you're good to go to use it. So that's the first important part, is yeast. The second part is flour. So there's lots of different types of flour out there, and I mean, we have just regular all-purpose flour. There's rye flour. We've got the Caputo 00 flour. And then you even have stuff like this that you can buy. This is Perfectly Blend. So this is a gluten-free, nut-free, corn-free, dairy-free flour for all of you allergy-sensitive types. All of this stuff basically works the same. The gluten-free flours that are pre-done and the all-purpose and 00 flours all basically work the same. When you start mixing in things like rye flour or wheat flour, you just want to be careful of how much flour you're adding. You never want to use anything. Never want to use any more than 50% rye or 50% wheat flour. If you were to use 100% wheat flour to make a bread or dough or something like that, it would be very, very tough, horrible tasting bread. So I recommend no more than 50% wheat flour if you want to go with the wheat kind of dough mixture. And then your liquid. 99% of the time you're going to use water. But you could also use beer. There's lots of beer bread recipes using beer. If you are going to use a beer bed recipe, I would highly recommend going with either a darker stout type beer or a light beer. Definitely not a hoppy type beer. Hi, Sarah.
Question.
You have a question? All right.
Is it bad that I use rapid rise yeast for everything?
No, that's what we use is active dry or rapid rise. Your only drawback to the rapid rise is you're going to be a little bit limited on the types of breads. But if you're just simply making bread and make bread or dough or something like that, rapid rise works great. And it's exactly what it says. It's rapid rise. It's designed to go through the whole process a lot quicker. So rapid rise is just fine. And if you're having good results, then I wouldn't change a thing. The goal of today definitely with the bread is we want to cover the basics and we want to keep it very approachable. By no means am I a certified baker. We're not going to go super deep into different styles of breads, but we're going to stick with a few that we use in our house and that we love to use that I've taught to lots of people. So those are the three kind of main components that you're going to use: your yeast, your flour, and your water. A couple of other components that are going to be mixed in occasionally. You'll probably always have some salt because there's not really any flavor, so that salt helps a little bit. And then with a couple different types of breads, you could have some sugar. Even if your bread recipe doesn't call for sugar, I recommend putting just a little bit in your water and yeast mixture. That way the yeast has something to feed on and kind of grow and ferment. And then if you wanted to add some flavors to your breads, you could add spices at this point. You could add either a pre-done kind of spice mixture, or you could add in fresh herbs or something like that. And those are going to be kind of your components. And then some breads, like naan that we're going to make here in a little bit, have milk and egg in them. And that gives a nice chewy texture to it. So it's kind of the outline or basics of the components of bread. Most of you should have most of that available to you. If you are super cost conscious and you're pricing out items, what's a loaf of bread cost? $2, $5? No idea. $2.79. So a loaf of bread will cost you $2.79. For $2.79 worth of yeast and flour and water, you could probably make 10 loaves of bread. And of course they will freeze the same and all that stuff. So you can make them and preserve and all that. Normally when we're making bread, we usually deal with about minimum 2 cups of flour, maximum 4 cups of flour at a time. Just because anything less than 2 cups of flour is just kind of just doesn't make very much. It's like half a loaf of bread. And anything more than 4 cups of flour can kind of get cumbersome in either a KitchenAid mixer or if you're doing it by hand. So, special tools. Do you need a KitchenAid mixer? Well, you don't need a KitchenAid mixer. It's by no means necessary. Us humans have figured out how to make bread for a couple thousand years before we had a KitchenAid mixer. So that's not necessary. It just makes life easier. I'll show you both methods today, just because I can, just for both of you. So if you have KitchenAid, you can use it. Funny story, this particular KitchenAid was the very first kitchen product that we purchased when I left the corporate chefing world. And I said, hey, I'm quitting my corporate job. I'm going to be a personal chef. My wife and I bought this on eBay through whatever their auction, however they do it, and it was our first ever like eBay auction purchase thing, and we were pretty excited about it. So old girl is still working and does us good. So let's make some pizza dough. First KitchenAid method. That way it gets stretched out. So I'm going to show you the bowl a couple times because baking does require some specific measurement, but at the same time, it doesn't require exact perfect measurement. And I'll show you that in a second. So we've got our flour. I do have a scale because a scale is useful in baking. If you really want to kind of geek out and do baking the right way, you're going to be in grams. You're going to measure everything in grams because grams are universal. A half a cup of flour is not the same weight all the time. Sometimes people pack that half a cup of flour more. Sometimes people overflow it. But 200 grams is 200 grams is 200 grams. So that's why we use that method. But if you're not using that method and you're following a recipe that says half a cup or something like that, that's going to be fine as well. And I'll show you why in this kind of cheater step. So first thing we want to do is just some basic bread dough, pizza dough. It's kind of we kind of use them intermixing. The bread dough we'll most commonly use 00 flour when we make this bread dough. It gives it a pretty unique texture, and it cooks up really light, and it's really nice.
Talk about where to get that, chef.
The 00 flour? Yeah, so 00 flour, locally, we pick it up at Goose the Market. It's downstairs in the Enoteca, and it's like $3 a bag, something like that. It's not, maybe it's $4. It's not crazy expensive. Pound for pound, it's crazy expensive, but it's not crazy expensive either. And it's in their Enoteca in the basement. So at this point, obviously, you're going to be calling them and seeing if they have it available. Or it's an item that you could order online. So not crazy hard to find. So that's what we usually use for our bread loaves, is the 00 flour. The all-purpose flour we're going to use for either like maybe our pizza dough, or if we wanted to maybe make some buns or rolls or something like that, we can use the all-purpose flour as well. Generally, that's kind of the only two we play with. I mean, there's bread flour and things like that. We generally don't use bread flour because it actually can get a little too glutinous. And like I said, we're not any sort of crazy advanced kind of baking stuff here. So we're just trying to cover the basics and do some simple stuff. So I've got my blossom going, my water, my yeast going. I always put that in the mixing bowl first. And the reason why I put that in the mixing bowl first is because I want to add the flour to the water. And I want to do it, incorporate it to where it pulls it all away from the bowl. And the attachment I'm going to use is the dough hook. So I've got my water and my yeast, and it's already activated. And I'm adding a little bit of salt as well. Yeah, what's the question?
What type of flour do you use for ciabatta bread?
That's a good question. So now we're getting into slightly advanced baking, in which we use a sourdough starter. And a sourdough starter is a mixture of an equal parts of mixture of flour and water that you have mixed together. So you're going to take like 2 cups flour, 2 cups water, mix it together, and then cover it with like a linen and leave it set at room temperature for several days. That starter will then kind of ferment and will become very sour, and that is what's referred to as a sourdough starter or ciabatta starter. And so you would then go into your bread recipe, and when it calls for flour and yeast, you would actually use a portion of that already fermented flour as part of that recipe, and that's what gives you that kind of airy texture and that kind of that kind of sour bite that you get on ciabatta and sourdough. Anyway, a really long answer, an advanced answer to a not advanced class.
All the Tater's friends are on now. They say they love you.
That's
Let's
awesome.
go.
So I've got the entire high school. Yes, I've got the entire Perry Meridian high school boys. Awesome. Love you guys. All right, so I got my water. I'm gonna put it in. Flour. I'll give you a little bit of flour to start. So we'll put that flour right on top of the water. Maybe. Yeah, there you go. So we'll do this in a couple stages. I'm going to actually add a little bit more water. I just want to make a little bit more dough. Pro tip, turn it off before you add more flour, unless you want flour everywhere. right, so we're going to mix this in with the dough hook. It's going to slowly incorporate. As it incorporates, it's going to start pulling it away from the bowl. It's going to be kind of this doughy, goopy mess. And that's the good start of what we're going for. You shouldn't have to necessarily use a spatula or anything like that to scrape the bowl. It really should incorporate itself and pull away from the bowl. So close. And as it starts to thicken up a little bit, we'll add a little bit more flour. So we'll let that mix a second. Oh, geez. Oh, no, you're good. You're fine. No, you're all right. You're all right. I'm going to show you this bowl when it's done. Or when it's close. It's all right. But we're going to let that go because it takes a second. You shouldn't be in a really big rush to get this fully incorporated because that dough hook is meant to slowly work everything in and work it all together. So, oh yeah, it's getting there.
Chef, should you make your bread while your bakery egg is on full blast?
That's a great question. Oh my gosh, is my egg on full blast? Oh no, we're good. Jackasses. So we're gonna set up the egg. We have it set up two different ways today, specifically for baking it on your grill. Direct with cast iron grates, because we're gonna do some naan and we're gonna grill that. You can also grill your pizza dough, and then also indirect for like if you wanted to bake this bread. Like 20 seconds away, and then I'm going to get to show you that. All right. So nothing complicated here. Water, yeast, flour, and a little bit of salt. And that's all we're going for. Basic dough. You can put it in a loaf like this and bake it. You can put it into rolls. Or you can use it for what we call pizza skins, which I'll show you guys with this.
Chef, can you make bread in a microwave?
I have probably no idea. I'm sure if you YouTube that, somebody will show you making bread in a microwave. I don't know how that would go. I imagine it would work fine. All right. So that looks fancy, but it's not. All you're doing is taking this and pushing it under, and then you're folding it under with this hand. So push under with this hand, fold under. As I'm doing that, I'm just rotating it around. So I'm pushing it under here, and under there. So under. And when you do it fast, it just looks like one motion. All right. So we're going for a baker's window. So you know your dough is ready to work. Ready to either roll out or form into a loaf or make into a pizza skin, then you can take some of that dough. I'm going to get close to the camera for this, because this is what we're calling the baker's window. So we want to be able to stretch this dough so that it becomes, you can see that with the light, almost translucent. And that means our gluten is properly activated. You can see how you can see the light through that dough. If you were to overwork your dough and just keep playing with it, and squeezing it, and tugging it, and playing with it, and saying, this is fun, I love playing with dough, and tugging it, then what happens is you've overworked the gluten, you've overactivated the gluten, and then you have cardboard. It doesn't stretch at all, and it's tough. And that's not what you want. So don't play with your dough because it makes it stiff and hard.
Alex says you have beautiful hands.
Thanks, Alex. You do too. Remember what I said about playing with the dough, Alex? Not okay. All right. So that dough's still a little bit wet. So add some more flour. We're just going to keep adding flour until that pulls away from the wall. And you guys will see. I'll show you here in a second. Oh, yeah. Let that go. So I'll just take this and split it in half. This is plenty for a couple of large pizza doughs or one loaf of bread. Can you leave a roll there? It's in that yellow tub. So easy rollout method. Thank you. Ooh. Okay. Now we want to show you this. Okay, I'm going to show you this dough. So this dough with the hook in it, it's still pretty soft. And you see how it doesn't pull away from the bowl? So it's mixed together, but we're still sticking to the sidewalls. You good? It's all right. So we're going to add just a touch more flour. Show you the difference. So that dough is pretty close. So at this point, you don't want to add a lot of flour at a time. Maybe a tablespoon at a time. Yeah. All right, so while that's working, let me show you this rollout method. So we want to get our pizza dough. You want to make a circle out of your pizza dough. What's the easiest way to do it? There's a couple ways. You can do the gravity method. So I'm just simply holding the edge of the dough right here and letting the weight of the dough pull itself. Because the idea is I'm trying to get this dough stretched out, but I'm trying not to work it or overwork the dough. Otherwise, it's going to become that tough, glutinous mess. So I'm just letting gravity and a little bit of patience work for me right now. Just the weight of the dough as I work around in a circle will continue to stretch it. And then if you want to get faster and faster, you just get a little bit of larger. And in the middle, you would work it on the outside. So that's one way to do it from there. Or you can just simply roll it out. A little bit of flour on your working surface. I tend to keep the side that I'm rolling has a little bit more flour, and the side that doesn't has a little less, so that when I do roll it out, it sticks a little bit on that bottom side so that it'll stretch for me instead of just kind of all sliding around. And then I just work in the 360-degree direction, just kind of work the edges. And then we're just looking for evenness as far as the thickness of the pie. If you want to go for a absolute perfect circle, you can keep doing that as well, or you can do the Papa John's cheater method. Just grab out your pizza cutter and cut it in a circle. But either way, we've got a nice thin crust. That at which point now we can either throw that on a pizza pan or a pizza tray, a cookie sheet with a little bit of oil or cooking spray, or parchment paper, or we can throw it right on the grill. So I know a lot of you have Big Green Eggs, and that's kind of what I do. So I want to show you how we have the grill set up. So I know this is a breads class, but I just want to talk about pizzas for a second. Because, of course, you can't see that at all. That's all right. We'll fix that. So let's set up indirect heat on the plate setter. And we'll move the camera around so you guys can see this part. But indirect heat, plate setter, and a little bit of cornmeal. And that cornmeal is going to keep the dough from sticking to the actual plate setter or the cooking stone. You can use either one. Cooking stone gives you a little bit larger diameter. Plate setter usually works for us. If we And because this is an all-purpose dough, we want to cook it at all-purpose temperature, which is about 400, 425 degrees. So I'm going to do a little more cornmeal. Touch more cornmeal. And I just want to throw this on to show you guys how you can cook it. So if you were actually going to make a full pizza, you could put toppings on that if you wanted to. The other ones are not there. You can put full toppings on that. Good way to do that is build it on your pizza paddle first. A little bit of cornmeal so you can slide it right off your pizza paddle, right onto the stone. That. Sweet. Yeah, that's perfect. That's all right. All right. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So plate setter, dough. If you wanted to have toppings on it right now, you could. Just don't get greedy with the toppings because too many toppings will not cook by the time that dough cooks. And then back on the point of pizzas. You want to make sure it match the type of dough to the type of pizza you want to cook. Meaning, if you really want that thin crust, really quick, hot, 700-degree Napoli style, type of pizza, you need to be using 00 flour because that's what they use and that's what 00 flour can withstand. If I try to take this all-purpose dough that I just made, and even though I rolled it pretty thinly, if I try to cook that at 700 degrees, it's just going to burn it up because that all-purpose flour isn't designed to be cooked at those high temperatures. And then, of course, you have your Chicago deep dish style pizza dough, which has actually melted butter in that dough. Is meant to be cooked at a much lower temperature, 375 degrees, indirect heat at usually long periods of time, 45 minutes to an hour sometimes on those thick deep dish Chicago style crust. So just make sure you're matching the style of crust or pizza dough you're making to the cooking style. So this is all purpose, this is indirect, 450 degrees, 425 degrees. So you see not quite the color yet, just leave it on a little bit longer. And then what we're doing here is we're actually making a pizza skin. So we're gonna par cook both sides and then save it for later. And at that point, once we par cooked it, it's shelf stable. I can wrap it and just keep it on the countertop, or I can freeze them. And then when it's time to make a really quick, good pizza, we can just unwrap it or pull it out of the freezer, top it, pop it in the grill, pop it in the oven. It's done in 6 minutes. So we've got that. Okay, so I want to go back to this dough. Ooh, we're so close, right? You unplug me?
It's down there, baby.
Ooh, that's it. Okay.
What temp is the egg right now?
Temp is 425. Indirect. All right. So now I want to show you guys this finished dough. So what happens here, see, it kind of still looks like it's all googly goop, but there, see, watch this, slides right off. Right off the hook, and then a little flour, please. Just on my hand. Yeah. And then just a little bit of flour on my hands. And you can see it's pulled it all the way from the bottom of the bowl. And that's what we're looking for. So this dough is fully mixed. There's no chunks of anything. I can work it with my hands without it being too sticky. And then if I was to do that baker's window, see, we're getting a beautiful baker's window. So I think we're pretty all right. So now on that, we would just want to let it rise. Just cover it, put it in a bowl, cover it with a towel, put it in a somewhat of a warm place. This would be helpful for sure. And let it rise until it about doubles in size. Once it's doubled in size, you're ready to bake it. If you're making this bread, knowing that you're not going to bake it right away, it's perfectly fine to take this dough at this point and freeze it. So we could take this dough and say, okay, well, I'm going to do a pre-portion it, and then portion it into sizes, and then just simply freeze those. And then when it comes to using it, just pull it out of the freezer and let it thaw overnight in the refrigerator, and they're ready to go. So that is regular all-purpose dough. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions about the all-purpose dough? Pretty straightforward. It's the same technique when making any of these other doughs as far as the yeast and the water. Just a couple different variations. So we're going to do our naan, which is our personal favorite because it is so versatile. And I'm going to make it by hand just to show you how we make it. So the way. And I've got my yeast starter already ready. And then the variations to that we're going to add to it. So we've got the water and the yeast already. And then we're going to add a little bit of egg and sugar and milk. So if you're doing this by hand, I'm just going to put the flour in the middle of your work surface in a pile. You can do this on a table, you can do it in a bowl, whatever you want, and just make a hole in the middle of it. And that way all of your goodness can go in there. So we'll start with an egg. We'll break that egg up.
How long can you freeze? Will it last in the freezer?
Oh my gosh. Easily a year if it's wrapped tightly. I mean, really, that's just all. A little bit of that depends on how cold your freezer is and how tightly you can get it wrapped. So, but it'll last a long time. Just wrap it really tightly. So that's the egg. A little bit of milk. And then as you add this, you're just simply squeezing it together, grabbing from the outside. Still trying to keep a kind of somewhat of a pool in the middle because as we add more liquid. And then this will start out as a one-handed endeavor. And then once I'm finished adding, I'll fully commit. But there we go. And then a little bit of water at a little bit of the water and the yeast at a time. So we'll just simply take our time, and we'll just keep adding a little at a time. And again, our key here is we're going to know we have the right amount of water and flour because it's not going to stick to our hands a lot, but it's still all going to incorporate into each other. So you can see here as I get it worked in, it starts to get really kind of stiff and dry. So we'll get our pile together again. A little more water. And then this is where the difference between a dough hook and the hands become a little different because you do need to knead it. You need to work it in and incorporate all this dough. So once you think you have it incorporated, which we're maybe 50% there, then you probably need to do it another 3 or 4 minutes after that. So as we start to get a workable ball, lock my wheels. See that? Now it's all starting to kind of come together. It'll start to pull away. It's still just a touch dry, but we'll get most of this incorporated.
Chef, is this a great way for younger kids to get their hands dirty in a productive way in the kitchen?
Yeah, put your kids to work and start having homestead and making some bread. They'd never know. Absolutely. This is a very fun family favorite when the kids were little, making pizza doughs, making bread. See, still a little bit stiff. So we'll add a little bit more water in time. At this point, you'll add just a couple tablespoons at a time until you get that texture that you want. And then you may be trading a little bit between flour and water just to make sure it's not sticking to your surface. But at this point, you're just going to be working it with your hands. So you'll be basically taking it, folding it in half, changing direction, folding it in half, changing direction, folding it in half. And you'll just keep doing that until it's a nice, smooth ball.
Chef JJ, what is your absolute favorite bread to make?
I love the naan. This is my personal favorite just because it is pretty user-friendly. It freezes really well, and it's really versatile. And it has a really good texture when it first comes off the grill or out of the oven, and it still has a really good texture. If it happens to be kind of sitting around for a little while, it still has a nice chewy texture to it. So naan's my absolute favorite, but focaccia is a lot of fun. Focaccia is basically your basic bread dough recipe with the addition of fresh herbs and toppings when we bake that bread. A fair amount of olive oil as well. But you can see as I've been working it, the dough gets smoother and smoother and smoother. And we basically want to knead it until that dough has a nice, almost silky smooth texture. Depending on how motivated you are, sometimes I really focus and just, knead it as hard as I can, as fast as I can. Maybe it only takes a few minutes. Sometimes I forget I'm watching a TV show, and I've been doing that for 8 or 9 minutes. So it's just really a matter of the texture. And so this would be the first step.
Why do you use a very small amount of milk and then just the rest water?
Oh, so that particular recipe just calls for a small amount of milk. I don't remember the exact recipe off the top of my head, but I think in our naan recipe it only calls for maybe ½ ounce or 1 ounce of milk total to maybe 8 ounces of water. So it's not a ton of milk compared to water in that particular recipe. Big container, small amount of milk. All right. So at this point, we would just put it into a bowl and a little bit of, and cover it and let it rise. So I think I have some of that. Could you grab me the scraper, please? It's right over. Thank you. Let's give this a quick scrape. I'll show you guys some naan. Can't believe nobody chimed in about my burning bread on the egg. Really disappointed in you guys. Not a single person was like, hey, pull that dough off the egg, it's burning. So disappointed. Thought you guys were watching out for you guys doing that. It's actually not too bad at all. At this point, it would be more of a cracker, but not burnt. Just crispy. Not par cooked, but by any means. Oh, it's going to be right there under the orange scale. Perfect, thank you. All right, so I'm going to pull this plate setter out. I'm going to show you the naan. You can actually just move this table out of the way. Here you go. got it. I got it. I don't want it. I don't want it. Okay. Maybe. Yeah, the grates are down there, so it's a little tougher. I'm going to angle the camera down just a little bit so you can see. Woo, there you go. Good. Okay. So, direct heat, cast iron grate, and I'm going to get some naan and show you what that looks like when it's done. Woo! So that's the naan that's been proofing for a little bit. Just going to hit it with a little bit of flour, my hand, so I can pull it out of the bowl.
Do you put plastic wrap over the dough so it doesn't dry out?
Yeah, plastic wrap, terry cloth, anything like that so the top doesn't dry out. All right, so I'll just take a little bit of this dough. I'll just hand stretch it. We'll do direct grill. So this would work for pizza dough as well. This direct grill method. Go somewhat even here in the texture. A little thick right there.
Adam says Zesta is jealous.
All right, here we go. Direct grill. You only need about 2 minutes at the most. So don't let me burn it this time, kids. I've been drinking. I need help with this. That's a good tool. Of course, that's a required tool. If you're of legal age, whoever added that. I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble with somebody. Right? Cool thing about that is it will naturally refill itself. See? Some of our favorite toppings on naan is we'll grill it, and then we'll just brush it with a little bit of butter or olive oil, salt and pepper. And that's the easiest, basic way to do it. You could use this naan as a pizza crust if you wanted to. It's a little different texture. It's a little bit chewier than it would be like the regular one. It's a little bit crispier, but that's to each their own. If we're doing more like bougie flatbreads, I tend to go with the naan because when we make those and put them out and just let them sit around on the table for a while, they still have a good texture and they still taste good. Versus if I take pizza and let it sit out for a little bit, I feel like that crust gets a little bit soggy. Okay, thanks. See magic. All right, it's been close to 2 minutes, I'm sure. And if you wanted to cook this in your oven, just 375, 400 will be sufficient to cook up the naan as well. Since I took that plate setter off and we're running direct heat now, we're still about 450. We crept up a little bit, but it's perfectly fine. You notice I didn't put any oil or anything on the dough, nothing on the grates. If you do that, you run the danger of getting a really smoky flavor because that oil is just going to drip down into the fire, and it's just going to create that rancid smoke, and all your food's going to taste like smoke. So grill the dough dry, and then coat it with oil or butter or something after you pull it off the grill, and you should be good to go. How's the crust? It's not burnt, right? It's just crispy. Tastes good. Good. So this is going to be the naan and the second version. As we wrap this up, you guys. Oh yeah, that's almost done. As we wrap this up, you guys. Ooh. I'm good. Oh, you got that? Thanks. Awesome. I just want to say thank you to everybody who took the time to tune in. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to send us notes or text or whatever, and we'll answer any questions you have. anything we can do to help you in using up the items in your cupboard, or maybe just looking to play with some different recipes or anything like that, we're here to help. And if you got any sort of value or anything out of this video, we greatly appreciate it if you could go to the Venmo link. It's in the comments, right? Awesome. There's a Venmo link in the comments. You can go there. 100% of the money that goes to that goes to my staff and support them during this time while they're anxiously waiting to go back to work. So thank you guys very much for hanging out.
What's your next class, Chef?
Yeah, so the next class we have scheduled for Monday at 2 o'clock. We're going to talk about curing some stuff. So since everyone's home and has some extra time on their hands, some of these stuff that maybe people think they want to do but never think they really have the time to do. So we're going to make some pastrami, and we're going to make some corned beef actually slash pastrami, and we're also going to do some bacon. And I'll show you guys those techniques. They both take several days, but we have several days, so seems like a good topic to cover. Not to mention, those are larger cuts of meat that seem to be kind of left behind in the grocery stores. People aren't quite sure what to do with them, so we'll be able to get some good use out of them. So, and then also again the caputo flour. Yeah, this is the caputo flour. That's from, you can order that online, 00 flour caputo, or Goose the Market has it. And then that's the gluten-free stuff, flour blend. Costco has this stuff. So thank you guys again. We appreciate you very much. Appreciate you supporting Chef JJ's and the team. And hopefully we'll see you Monday at 2 o'clock. We'll get the whole live stream link thing figured out, and we'll be better than ever. So thanks again, you guys. Appreciate it. Love you, babe.